Good morning, it's good to see you all. You're a beautiful bunch. If you haven't told yourself this, you're good looking and God made you beautiful. We give Him the glory, but yeah, it is good to look at you from the stage. Thank you for being a beautiful people. It is an honor and a privilege always to share and to preach what God has said to me. This was a particularly difficult one because I wanted to say something that I want to say. That's always a dangerous thing for a preacher, to move into that space where he starts to want to shape messages for the Lord. But the Lord shapes the message. So I think what we'll do is we'll just leave what I wanted to say later, and I'll just give what God says, if that's okay with you. Not that I doubt that what He gives us as your flock leaders, as your shepherds, is good for you, because I know it is. But on this particular day, it didn't work out between God and myself. He won. So 2 words in the Bible that are used to give this act of devotion a bit more clarity and shape is this word, shaka. Shaka. And it's the Hebrew word in the Old Testament that is translated as worship. Yep, I told you this last week. I think I'm preaching to the people that weren't here last week, so it's a good thing I'm recapping. Wonderful. It's in essence, it's the word to make yourself lower in position. Pardon me. So what it says depress. Now depress, before it meant mental health, a state of negative and low and whatever. Depressed was an English word that was used to say that I'm depressing myself before somebody else because they are more worthy. You understand what I'm saying? That's it. We're working together here today. So it's to make yourself lower in position, to fall prostrate before, throw yourself on the floor, lying with your face down, reverence and submission, to pay homage, to stoop down, shaka. Can you imagine? Such a powerful African name, shaka. In Hebrew, it means such wonderful things. It's the actual position of coming before God. It's wonderful. The next word that I used last week was the Greek word. It's almost the equivalent of this, proskuneo. Can you remember that? And it's also this thing of coming and bowing before and lying flat on your face and coming closer like you want to lick the hand, like a dog that wants to come and lick the hand of its owner. It is to do this all in reverence and fear before the Lord. So now, I also explained that the Hebrew and the Greek words are compound words. Can you understand that? Now, compound word, for those that don't understand it or matric was too far away, is a word like sunflower. Sun in itself means something, flower in itself means something, but when you put it together, it means flower, sunflower. A flower that turns its head to follow the sun. Have you ever seen that? Literally does that. It's crazy. Sunflower. Sun in itself, of course, also means something, doesn't it? And flower in itself also means something. But when you compound, you put it together, it's a compound word. That's how Greek and Hebrew words work. They are compound concepts. You read shaka, and it doesn't just say shaka. It means all of the things. To worship before your God because He is worthy and you are not. In essence. Proskuneo, the same type of thing, a compound construct, a concept. Not just, worship. And what do we understand worship to be? As Pentecostal people, we take it as freedom reigns in this place. Most beautiful etheric noises that comes out of Marion's keys and her vocal cords. And we take that, no, it's more than that. Surprise, it's more than that. This starts to touch your lifestyle, your constant position before God, your relation to where you are and where He is. Are you understanding it? You need to tell your faces you understand it. I was expecting to see this. I can share with you what it means to curtsy and to face down on the floor. And you can understand those things. Yeah. I can explain the words to you, but it needs to be grasped. It needs to be birthed in your heart. And this is what Jesus comes when he says to the enemy, you shall worship the Lord your God, and him only shall you serve. He says, don't just know the words. Don't just understand the meaning of it. Live it. You understand? Because there is freedom in that. And we're going to see that this morning. I can give you the acts that make up the actions that will help someone say, oh, I know this dance. It is worship. I can show you. I can fall down here in front of you and show you this is what it means to kneel. Now, I can't kneel down because my knees are sore. And I struggle to get up, and it's just an embarrassment for everybody involved. But I can show you what it means. And you will recognize it. And you will say, when somebody does that, that looks like the act and the dance of worship before God. Yeah, you can identify it, not so. I think it's just because we watch so many YouTubes, so that we can compare our own musos to those musos. Shame on you guys, people. But in the Old Testament and in the New Testament, we see that Jesus is advocating for something that's not just, you can't just recognize, but there's life in it, and there's heart in it. And he even goes so far as to say that, well, perhaps somebody isn't kneeling outwardly like Johan this morning, but deep in his heart, he's kneeling. Because his knees are just broken after all the years of tennis and squash. And though he's trying to rehabilitate it through playing paddle, it's just not happening quick enough. I used to mock people that wore knee braces. And I always used to say, dude, if you have to wear two, just rather get a wheelchair. I bought. Guess who's on the court now with 2 knee braces? Even me. It's me. Old Testament worship was the drawing near to God. When they said, let's go and worship the God, our God, the Lord Most High, Yahweh, Elohim, whatever they called him, Yeshua, Jehovah. It was the drawing near of going there and then having to enter his presence. We see this in the tabernacle. Drawing near to his presence. It wasn't just about going to somewhere and doing the dance. It was going to the one who you dance about. Not so. The entering into it, the devotion to it. Worship, the heart that took you there. Perhaps so that others can see the dance and also do the dance. But much more the devotion of your life to gather before the presence of the one who is worthy. We will look at the Old Testament example this morning of King David, and then we're going to look at 2 examples in the New Testament where Jesus honors, affirms, and praises these 2 ladies. And it's recorded for us in the New Testament to look at today. So Old Testament, we're going to look at David and learn something from his life, and then we're going to look at the New Testament, a widow and a prostitute. I know. It's quite something for a church to look at, but we're going to do it because it's in the Bible. All right. So number 1, David. David is described as a man after God's own heart. Did you know this? What happens is Saul is king, and he's a very good king until he isn't a very good king. And then what happens is the prophet goes to him and says, Saul, your time as king is over. God has raised up another king. But he doesn't just say, I'm going to replace you, like he says, okay, now ANC, we're going to replace half of you with the MK and with the DA. No. God says, I'm going to replace you with a man who is a man after my heart. You've heard this before, 1 Samuel 13:14, but now your kingdom shall not continue. Samuel speaking to Saul. The Lord has sought out a man after his own heart, and the Lord has commanded him to be the prince over his people, because you have not kept what the Lord commanded you. You get it? Have you ever thought about what is meant when it says he's a man after your own heart? I know what I mean when I say, oh, Mark, Chad, you're a man after my own heart. You know what it is? They brought me a cup of coffee when I needed it. Or some of them drop off a little bag of White Rabbit toffees. And I'm like, you're a man after my own heart. What does it mean? It means I'm fond of them. It means what they did pleased me. God is saying this. I'm fond of David. I like what he does. It pleases me. Can you see that? A man after my heart. My heart is with him like his heart is with me. But also possibly could it mean that God says that man's heart resembles my heart? That it's not just a thing about how we see each other and how much I like it and how you pursue me, but it's also about the shape of your heart. When people look at you, they don't just see the dance of worship, they see worship. You understand what I'm saying? You guys are with me this morning. I'm loving it. I think it's the fans that I switched on. He identifies him as a man of worship, a man of devotion. When the people looked at him, they could see David was after God with his whole heart, but also David's heart resembled something of the Father. One would say he was a worshiping man in the presence of a worthy God. Yes. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. The Old Testament sees a record of life of the kings of Israel and Judah after it divided. And it records on occasions the good things that they did, but also the bad things that they did. And even though David is overwhelmingly known as the man with a heart after God, in pursuit of God and shape after God, he stuffs up. Sure. He stuffs up. And years later, it's still recorded in the Bible that he was still known as a man after God's heart. Isn't that wonderful? It gives us all hope. So just little freebies I'm throwing out at you like Skittles. You can pick them up and eat them if you want to. If not, I'll eat them later. But he makes on one occasion a very costly mistake before God. And he has to make it right. Now, another little skittle that I'm throwing out, a freebie here for you guys. When you're facing consequences in your life and it's tough, it's not always the enemy. It's you. You have made some dumb decisions. And yes, maybe you didn't know, and you fell into that trap because you didn't know. But we all know, some of us make them. And I'm including myself in that, some of us, even though we know. And we have to face consequences. Can we as a people just stand before God in honest transparency and say, Father, I'm aware that this was my consequences, my making. And let's see how he helps us to own them and face them and walk through them. Because we see the example of how he did this for David. Because I know what situation am I talking about. It's recorded in the 1 Chronicles 21, verses 1 to 4. It's just a little piece we're going to look at. And because I always think it's good for us to read Scripture, I'm going to read it, but I'm going to read it fast. And I'm just going to pause at certain spots. Is that okay? All right. Then Satan stood against Israel and incited David to number Israel. So David said to Joab and the commanders of the armies, Go, number Israel from Beersheba to Dan, and bring me a report that I might know their numbers. But Joab said, May the Lord add to his people 100 times as many as they are. Are they not, my lord the king, all of them my lord's servants? Why then should my lord require this? Why should it be a cause of guilt for Israel? But the king's word prevailed against Joab. So Joab departed and went throughout all Israel and came back to Jerusalem. What is happening here? In modern days, we call this a census. Have you ever been part of a census in South Africa? I have, a few times. People are counted in a country. What is our population at the moment? Estimated at 60 million. What is the biggest population country in the world? India, 1.45 billion. Second to them, China, 1.4 billion. How do we know this? Somebody went and counted them. Some of them are only estimates. The reason for a census, listen to this. Traditionally, censuses were conducted primarily for taxation and military processes to determine the number of citizens, their properties, and their abilities to serve in the military or pay taxes. This is what David is doing. There's an okay space in the history of Israel, and David says, you go and count everybody. I want to know, can I get more tax, and can I get them into my army? Sounds familiar. The start of every war ever. I want more tax, and I want more people to fight for me so I can be more powerful. Are you with me? Joab, a wise man, says to him, no, King David, don't do this. They're already your servants. You don't need to know. They fight when you call them to fight. David says, no, I want to know. What is David going for? He wants to check what is happening in his kingdom. Not because of the kingdom, because there's nothing happening at the moment in the kingdom. There's no need for him to know how many soldiers there are. Everything is going well. The taxes are coming in. He's living comfortably. He's having like 3 raisin cakes a day. There are lambs on the spit. It's going well in Israel, and he decides that he's going to count. Why? Because the king is feeling insecure. He wants to know that I can defend and go and conquer when I want to. And more than that, I want to have more money if I need it. What else is there? Am I wrong? That was a resounding, so I'm going to go and interpret what you just grumbled at me as, yes, Johan, you are right. It makes sense, doesn't it? What has happened to his heart? Where is he starting to put his heart and the trust of his heart in his life? On the taxes, on the people that can defend him. What has happened in essence to David here? His heart has moved away from God and moved into David. And all of a sudden we see a little snapshot of a king that is no longer with his heart completely after God and what God says and what God does. But the king is starting to see his heart come after himself. All right. But God is not pleased with David. He sends consequences. David has 3 options. You are the king of a nation who is in a good space. There's nothing happening. And he has to decide between this. 3 options. 3 years of famine. 3 months of people raiding against them. Or 3 days, the Lord coming after them. Meaning, they're going to be smitten, smote. My normal linguists are not here. Normally, I would look at Fran. Oh, there's Karabo. Is it smite? Smite it. And David goes and he says, rather let us fall for 3 days into the hands of God than anything else. A freebie. Sometimes our consequences are not just felt by us, it's felt by others. That's what David has to learn here. And in facing the consequences, we start to see this heart of David on display. This heart that God raved about that said, I love your heart so much, I'm going to make you the king. And now David has to say, but my heart has left you, God. And what does David say? I need to bring my heart back to God. And he introduces this thing, this concept of worship to a God that is more than just the confession of our mouths, but is the pursuit of our actions. He goes to bring an offering to God. He says, I have to atone for what I've done. To go before God and give what is due to him who is worthy. I just want to explain 2 little words here. Worthy and another concept, worth it. I hyphenate it, so it's 2 words. So worthy, the esteemedness. Somebody is worthy. The Right Reverend Raja is worthy of my attention. He's esteemed. Esteemed that, or estimated that something is of greater value. And they deserve more attention than you do. If I say it like that, who is worthy in your life? Estimated that something or someone is of greater value and deserve more of your attention. Who is worthy in your life? Can I say it? Sometimes your children. sometimes your possessions, sometimes your work, sometimes your family, sometimes your sports. They're worthy, aren't they? And yes, in itself they are, but are not the worthy of worthies, are they? And then I thought maybe worth it, hyphenated, what does this mean? It means to estimate the value of something that you are comfortable to pay for it, isn't it? What is a coffee worth here at LRC? Well, it should be worth $50 because it's the best darn coffee that you're going to get in Gauteng. And when you go to other places, notice I said places, not churches, their coffee is worth 10 rand, 50 cents. Because you shouldn't be paying money for that taste. Worthy, worth it. And David stands there and he says, my heart has left God. I need to come back to that which is truly worthy. And I need to do something that is worth it. Are you understanding the concepts here that I'm hammering home here? I'm driving home. And he lands on this, that is recorded in Isaiah 42 verse 8. When God reveals himself through the prophet to the nation and he says, I am the Lord, that is my name. And my glory I give to no other God, nor my praise to any carved idol. And eventually our King returns and he says, this is the God who is worthy, and this is the God who is worth it. And all he has is he has to go back to, what did I do in response when my heart was still saying, he's worthy and he's worth it? This morning, maybe God is calling you back to the place where he's saying, what was your response the first time you knew I was worthy and I was worth it? And David says, there's only one thing for me to do. I need to come before you and offer something. I need to offer something, God. And then it's recorded twice in the Bible what he does. In essence, he's saying, I need to worship God because he's worthy. I need to ask for forgiveness before him because he's worthy. I need to atone for something because he is worthy. I need to return to the devotion of the one who is worthy and worth it. 2 Samuel 24 records where the king says, when he gets to this person where he says, right here, I need to make an offering to my God to show to others, but more than that, to show my heart that he is worthy and worth it. And the guy says to him, have the land, build an altar, build and do your offering here. And David says these words, no. I will buy it from you for a price, because I will not offer burnt offerings to the Lord my God that costs me nothing. He's saying not only is God worthy, but he's worth a sacrifice. Can you see it? It's recorded again in Chronicles 21. The King David said to Ornan, no, but I will buy this from you for the full price. I will not take for the Lord what is yours, nor offer burnt offerings that cost me nothing. This morning worship, or this morning's message is about worship is costly. Lifestyle worship is costly. Lifestyle worship demands that you stand and you say, who is worthy of worship? And lifestyle worship says, I need to give something that is worth it. Worship is an offering. An offering is giving something that costs you something to someone who is greater than you. To enter into their presence with a humbled attitude, aware that they are able to do what they have said, the good and the bad, because their presence is life and it is abundance to you. And what happens here, David might be buying land for a bit of money. But in essence, what he is doing, he is sacrificing his heart and his life again before God. Can you see it? The offering might have been a few shekels in the one of gold and a few coins of silver in the other text. But the actual cost was David's heart having to say, I come and offer myself. Worship is giving not only something, but giving yourself. It's costly, but it's worth it. Two examples where Jesus is recorded in the New Testament commenting on the costly offerings of two unexpected people, a poor widow and a sinful prostitute. Shall we read it? Do I need to make you guys stand? Are you with me? Just going to stare at you for a bit. I hope you're already feeling the questions in your heart. Is he still worthy to me? Is he worth it to me? So let's look at Luke 21, verse 1 to 4. The poor widow. Jesus looked up and saw the rich putting their gifts into the offering box. And he saw a poor widow put in 2 small copper coins. And he said, truly I tell you, this poor widow has put in more than all of them. For they're all contributing out of their abundance. But she has, out of her poverty, put in all that she has to live on. So imagine Jesus sitting here. And he's checking the red box. And he's seeing people drop wads of cash into it. And you see somebody put coins into it. Just, do you still go to the shops with brown coins? Like we've tried to go and cash up and deposit brown coins, and people are saying, no, they no longer take it. That's in essence what's happening. Somebody's dropping in leopards. Somebody's dropping in what used to be on the fence, the sparrows or the mosses or something. It was tiny birds, hey. Now he starts to teach his disciples about this. What we are seeing is the concept of offering, just in a different shape. But it's the same concept that David did in the Old Testament. I shall give to the Lord that which costs me something, because he's worthy and he's worth it. Something of value to him who is worth it. A costly worship event. In the Old Testament, it says, when you look at that thing of offering, it says to come before God. Offering, the concept of offering described in the Old Testament, is to come before God with worship, atonement, and devotion. That's what she comes to the red box. She comes with worship, atonement, and devotion. She drops it there. For argument's sake, let's just look at the widow's circumstances. So what happens if you do not know the word widow means that her husband has passed away. She's no longer there. She's lost her husband, and with that, according to tradition, her livelihood. She was completely and wholly dependent on him to provide for her. Now, if she had children, they would have provided for her. Or maybe like we read in the Old Testament when we read the book of Ruth, there would have been some cousin who'd said, I'll take care of you. Sometimes they even got married in the taking care of. But for a woman to be called a widow that everybody knows, she's socially known, she is in that community known, and that is a widow. And that she needs to almost beg for a living. It means there was nobody that took care of her, no kinsman redeemer, no children, no cousins, no anything. She's the one sitting there saying, please, can I have some means? Are you understanding the concept here? It's one sentence, but it's more than that. We are being communicated something that a woman is completely destitute. Without the goodness and the benevolence of the community, she's got nothing. It says she takes 2 coins, which was all she had to eat, to live on. She has no property, possibly. She's living on the streets. This is the context. Everybody knows, oh, that's the woman that begs at the temple. Yeah. Once you are here, you don't really have anything left but living on the meager scraps of somebody else's kindness, generosity. Now, first of all, I thought in the terms of putting money in the offering box, according to Old Testament, that would have been for atonement, for worship and devotion. And I thought, what is she atoning for? Probably, I don't think so much the atonement, but definitely the devotion and definitely the worship. Can you see it? And this is what Jesus comments on. He's saying the heart of this widow is, I'm giving my last. But more than that, she's surrendering herself completely into the hands of God. Because He is worthy and He's worth it. She surrenders and gives up her desperation. She surrenders and she gives up her hope. She bows and she places her hope in provision and in people in that box. And she says, you, Lord, you are my provision. I will give whatever I have as an offering to you because you are worthy and you are worth it. She gives herself, her survival, her future to God as she places it into that box. What a heart of absolute devotion and worship to the one who is worthy and the one who is worth it. I shall not give to the Lord that which cost me nothing. In light of what she's giving, she's putting in quite a different heart in action. She's showing us a heart of devotion. She's not just going through the actions of the dance of worship. Yeah? She's giving worship. The only way you give in this state is if the one who is worthy has captured your full attention. If you have been in His presence so often that you know His heart that is for you. Other than that, how do you give up everything that you have? How do you step into that obedience of giving whatever is in your hand freely? Unless you know His heart, then you can truly say, He is worthy and He is worship. He is worth it. Worth it. This is worship. Costly worship. The second thing that happens is there's a sinful prostitute that Jesus is confronted with. In Luke 7, verse 36 to 50. A sinful woman is forgiven, it says. Are you with me? Righto? Shall we read it? I'm doing well for time this morning. One of the Pharisees asked him to eat with him. This Pharisees, the house where they were, is Simon the leper. I don't know how he became a Pharisee, but this is what the Bible tells us. And they were reclining at the table, verse 37. And behold, a woman of the city who was a sinner, when she learned that he was reclining at the table in the Pharisee's house, brought an alabaster flask of ointment. Standing behind him at his feet, weeping, she began to wet his feet with her tears and wiped them with the hair of her head and kissed his feet and anointed them with ointment. There's a lot happening here. Jesus, who is sought by the Pharisees to put to death, goes to the Pharisee's house to eat. Number one. Secondly, he's sitting at the table, and there's probably a lot of holy people, Pharisees, the same people that he saw drop lots of money into the red box, is now there congregating, sitting, talking to him, and into their midst come a known prostitute. She wasn't suspected to be. Nobody speculates about her. It doesn't read, some people considered it to be sinful because they thought maybe she was having like a side business. Can you see what's happening here? He's in the house of a Pharisee, his enemies to a degree. And secondly, a woman that is known to be turning tricks. That tells me that she's so well known, she's probably very good at her job. Because why haven't they done anything to her? Why has nobody gone to save her out of that lifestyle? Why has nobody gone and said, as a lady, you are not supposed to do this. You are causing adultery and you are causing fornication, and it's not good for society. They are sitting there and they know that she's coming in, and they've got the law that says, if this happens, this is what you're supposed to do with that lady. But she's not stoned. Instead, she has very expensive things. She has a jar of fragrance that is quite expensive. It's not the Yardley counter. It's not the Revlon counter. This is not even sold at Ark. This is Skins. And if you know what I'm talking about, you know that we have, in essence, moved into the fragrance shop where the starting price is 3 to 4 grand for 30 to 50 mils. That's what she's playing with. Where does a normal, just a woman just find money to just buy this? There's a lot being communicated at us when we read it like this. On top of it, she is standing behind Jesus. She has somehow entered a house that she's not supposed to be in. She's connected. Like she's arrived at you know the spy movies where they go to the ambassador's house and they slip in with fake IDs that somebody's just updated in time as they scanned it and whatever, and they're like, yeah, come in. That's what she's done. She slipped in, and now she's hiding, and she's standing behind Jesus. And what I read as wiping is actually weeping. She's weeping behind Jesus. She's in the presence of the one who is worthy, and she's aware of it. She's crying. And in this moment, in my mind, they've just come in, and they're still doing something. They're having like welcoming drinks in the foyer. She's standing behind Jesus, and she can't stand anymore. She just falls in his presence, and she starts to wet his feet with her tears. She breaks this expensive fragrance thing, and she pours it on his feet, and then she takes her hair and she wipes it. This alabaster jar, there was a big one that she would keep at home, and in it she would keep the fragrance, and it would be shaped in a certain way so that it would preserve the essential oils from evaporating. So the neck was thin, but the body was big. And then all the prostitutes would walk around with a smaller version of this, that they would take some drops and pour it in there, and then wear it around their necks or on their wrists, and as they walk, this would be the fragrance that they would attract the men with. Because, quite frankly, everybody stank back then. B.O. was real. And now all of a sudden, everybody notices, what's that smell? Oh, it smells good. It smells like skin. Delicious. And that's how she attracted the attention. So every day she would decant a bit more oil into the small little jar with a thin neck so that it didn't pour out, but it had some holes in that the fragrance could permeate out. And she would say, hello. She comes behind Jesus. Now, some of the commentators comment whether she came with the full jar, the big jar, and she broke it. Because why else would they say that it was a year's wages that she poured out when it was just a little fragrance around it? In my mind, she broke it all. She was like, I'm bringing everything that I have, and I bring that thing that attracts to my business. I'm going to break it all. How much tears would it take to wet somebody's feet? How much do you cry before you throw a tissue away? Think about it. When you watch a movie, and you just dab here and there, or you're in the presence of an empath, and he's busy talking to you, or you are an empath and I'm talking to you about something, and you tear up. How wet is your tissue when you've just wiped once? Enough to wipe your hands. like a wet wipe. This woman is sobbing. It's not just a silent tear. This is uncontrollable crying that she's using to wet the feet of her Jesus, because she has realized he's worthy. And then she breaks the jar because he's worth it. They go and they said, this could have been sold and given to the poor. He tells a story. He says, if somebody has a lot of debt and it's forgiven, and somebody has a little debt and it's forgiven, who's more grateful? And the guy says, the one with lots of debt, Lord. He says, yes, this woman has lots of debt, and it's just been forgiven. Her offering, her heart with which she came into the presence of He who is worthy, her sacrifice in obedience, that she shattered and broke something so precious, was worth it. I receive her offering, and as such, she's welcomed in my presence, and she is forgiven. In essence, what Jesus is doing here when he's speaking to Simon, he's not just saying, Simon, look how wonderful her heart is towards me. Can you see this heart? It's like David's heart, after my own. He knows I'm worthy. She knows I'm worthy. He also says to Simon, possibly the flip side of this. Simon, why does your heart not see me as worthy of such a sacrifice? Simon, you've not even given me water to wash my feet. This woman wetted with her tears. You've not given me a towel to do. This woman gave me heel balm. No more cracked heels here. Essential oils. Washed, dried, moisturized. Am I not worth it, Simon? Is that what you're saying? And how often do we fall in that category? We stand in this audience and we see somebody go mull for Jesus in musical worship. And we're like, that one's having a right royal good time. A little bit of a rough week there. This moment recorded in the Gospels for us is considered by commentators and theologians as one of the most lavish acts of devotion, atonement, and worship. Can you see it? She gives her all. The fragrance and the container, she doesn't pour out, they say she breaks. We drove to Mall of Africa the other day, and in the parking lot there were shards of glass, and we thought somebody had hit another car, until one of the kids went and touched it and said, this was a bottle of fragrance. You can still smell it. There was nothing left to use. It was done. The worst that has happened to me is I've had to replace the little sprayy thing that goes on top. But it's not an exact fit. So when I push it, it spills out. And guess what happens? The entire house has that fragrance. I have that fragrance for weeks. She's lavished it upon Jesus, but a side consequence is she's also lavished it on that house. And every time they walk in there, they will know that there was somebody here who was worthy of worship and worth a whole lot of fragrance on his feet. She offers, in essence, her entire livelihood. It's no more. She gives up her reputation. She comes with her full shame, her embarrassment, and the allegations and the whispers, and she says, I'm going to bring it all. Give it to me. I'll give it to Jesus. She's in essence giving an offering that costs her everything. Because who on earth is going to marry a prostitute? And you know what Jesus does? He says, I know this heart. It resembles David's. I see this heart. I justify this heart. I forgive this sin. You are worthy of my presence. Because worship is giving. And in giving to the one who is worthy and the one who is worth it, we start to receive. Not what you think you're going to get, but that which He sees worthy to be poured out on you. Instead of condemnation, instead of destruction, instead of judgment, He pours forgiveness, grace, and acceptance. On that poor widow, can you imagine? I'm pretty sure when she got back to her makeshift bed on the streets, every day there was just coins tucked everywhere under the bed. Can you imagine? Like Jesus would never just leave her destitute. I think He's like, yeah, I see your 2 coins. I raise you a lifetime supply. Because I see your heart. I love your heart. So worship, in essence, a lifestyle that calls out and screams out and declares, there is one who is worthy. And there is one who is worth it. Bring your sacrifice. Bring it in obedience. Bring it quickly. I don't know what God is talking to you about. I know He is. You might sit there and pretend that you're not hearing me. I know you can hear me. May I shout with a voice that draws your heart to Him and not to me. And may your convictions flow from Him. So that your lifestyle and your acts of worship, your entering into His presence with offering will bring Him glory. Is that all right? Thank you, Lord, that we can worship You with everything that we have. We can bring our things, but we can bring ourselves into Your presence, God. And thank You, Lord, that You accept us as we enter into Your presence when we say, God, You are worthy and You are worth it. I pray for a congregation where we are so attuned to Your voice and so responsive to Your presence that our hearts will start to resemble David's heart when You said, I know that heart. That heart is after Me. It is not just pursuing of Me, but it's also shaped like mine. Father, may we be a people that bring You glory when we worship. Bring You honor when we worship. Bring You our obedience, our livelihoods, our reputation, our everything to You, Lord, as a sacrifice and an offering. In Jesus' name, amen.